Hello everyone, my name is Thuận and I'm a student at Ho Chi Minh City University of Education. I'm currently taking a course named Using Resources in ELT and our group's focus today is on teaching English for academic purposes, specifically teaching literature review writing. As you all know, literature reviews play a very prominent role in determining the success of a research paper or a scientific journal. So that's why many students who want to pursue postgraduate courses or obtain a master degree or even a doctoral degree would probably take interest in the lesson I'm gonna give you now. Okay, so no more waiting, let's just come to the main points of our lesson today. Okay, so first of all, we really need to know what a literature review is. So let's have a look at the definition of a literature review. Well, so a literature review is a critical analysis of published sources or literature on a particular topic. It is an assessment of the literature and provides a summary, classification, comparison, and evaluation. Okay, so here is the list of some characteristics of literature reviews. So first of all, literature review needs to include the most important and recent work of relevance to one's field of study. Okay, so you need to make sure that your information as well, the work that you include in your literature review is latest. Is updated and important, the most significant one. Okay. So the second characteristic of literature review is it is not usually sufficient to list key texts and state the content. And finally, among the approaches you might pursue are to identify where writers differ and how the literature has changed over time. Okay, so basically the aim of writing a literature review is to identify the differences between different authors in the same field of study and how the knowledge, the literature has changed like gradually over time. That mark the really significant point. Okay, so another thing to bear in mind is it is very important in a literature review chapter that quotations from texts do not become so predominant that they monopolize the chapter and overshadow what you write yourself. The essence of the chapter should be your analysis, illustrated and exemplified by quotations. Okay, so please bear in mind that a literature review is not a bibliography, it's not a summary, it's not a collection of quotation from different authors. You need to know that a literature review is your own analysis, is your own ideas. Quotation is just like a minor part in your literature review chapter because it's only play the role of illustrating and exemplifying your analysis, your ideas. So bear in mind that you need to write on your own. Yeah, don't quote too much. Okay, so here comes the format of a literature review. I think that like many other chapter in your research paper or in your scientific journal, the literature review is also generally in the format of a standard essay, which is usually made up of three components. First one is an introduction, and then a body, and finally a conclusion. Well, as I said before, literature review is not a bibliography where you summarize different sources and didn't give your own ideas, your own analysis. Yeah, so literature review is different from an annotated bibliography in which a summary of each source is listed one by one. Yeah, they are different, they're not the same, okay? Please remember that. Okay, so let's come to the second part of our lesson today, which is why do we write literature reviews? Yeah, let's look at some reasons why do we need to write literature reviews, okay? Okay, so the main reason to write literature reviews in your scientific journal as well as your research paper is to show your understanding by analyzing and then synthesizing the information. Okay, so there are 7 main reasons you need to bear in mind when you write literature reviews. Okay, so first of all is determine what has already been written on the topic. Provide an overview of key concepts. Identify major relationships or patterns. Next one is identify strengths and weaknesses. Identify any gaps in the research. Identify any conflicting evidence. And finally, provide a solid background to a research paper's investigation. And another purpose of the literature review is to demonstrate your ability to engage in reasoned argument and critical evaluation of the relevant literature, according to Hankook University of Foreign Study, 1996, page 14. Okay, so let's come to the structure of a literature review. Well, you need to know that a structure of literature review is different from the format, because the format is just the general organization of a literature review, like 3 parts, very general. But in this part, a structure, we need to take a look at some way to construct your own literature review. You could choose different methods, different ways to construct your own literature review chapter. Well, I have listed here 6 popular as well as very straightforward ways you can take into consideration to build your own literature review. The first one, also the most popular one as well as the most straightforward one, is chronological order. You will place the point of view from the oldest to the latest one. Yes, you write your literature review based on chronological order. And the second one is thematic order, based on the theme of your research. And then the types of methodology. The next one is organization based on findings. And next is ideological position. And finally, some selection of significant works from different authors. Okay, so here is an example of chronological mode of organization of a literature review. So as you can see here, over here, we have like source 1, which you quote evidence from the first author, and then come to the source number 2. In this stage, you will justify author 2 differ from author 1 and have a small conclusion like what has changed, okay? And similar to source number 3, which you will justify author 3 differ from author 1 and 2, and then you will summarize and conclude what has changed over time. Okay, so I think this one is very straightforward and easy to write. Okay, so here are some ways to structure a literature review. The way in which scholarly writing is presented depends very much upon the subject matter and other issues such as the methodology used. Although we can sketch out some basic principles, an academic writer also needs to be flexible and to try to think of the most appropriate ways in which to treat a subject. Okay, so the idea of Organization, mode of the organization is up to you, is up to your decision. So you need to think about the most suitable way to write your literature review. Okay, so let's come to the final part of our lesson today, which is also the most important one in this lesson, which is language to use in literature review writing. Okay, since our group's focus today is all about teaching English for academic purposes, so the language part should be emphasized the most, I believe. Okay, so first of all, you need to know what formal writing is. Okay, so formal writing is very simple. You just need to remember to carefully check whether the words you are using to write your literature review are of high or low formality level. Okay, so you could simply check the formality level by using a dictionary, an online one or even an offline one. But make sure that you will use a reliable one like Oxford Dictionary or maybe like Cambridge Dictionary Longman from reliable publisher. Okay, so here's an example of a formal word. As you can see here, the verb notwithstanding, we have the label here, like it stated that this word is formal, so maybe it's very suitable for the academic context. Okay, so you could use this word instead of like despite or in spite of, which is less formal than this one. Okay, so be careful with the phrase a lot of. I could see that many Vietnamese students, including me also, used to use a lot of like this phrase in like academic writing, but actually this is not a formal phrase. This is not a suitable lexical item to include in your academic writing. Because it is a phrase, it's more suitable for spoken language. So just simply check the formality level using the dictionary. So the next thing you need to bear in mind is showing agreement and disagreement, because literature review is trying to show your ability to engage in reasoned argument. So agreed and disagree is a very important function of English that you need to take into consideration. So here are some ways of showing agreement, as well as some way to show disagreement. So as you can see on the screen, we have like use of verbs, you have adjective and adverb, and finally use of some clauses or some phrases. So first of all, let's come to the agreement part. So basically you could use the direct verbs like I agree or I concur, because these verbs really necessitate the use of I. So in order to avoid using the word I too much, which is not appropriate to formal context, instead you could use citation verbs like indicate, demonstrate, establish, make it clear, point out, prove, show, note, and observe. Very straightforward, right? So the next one is you should make use of adjective and adverbs to describe an opinion. Like when you agree with the opinion, you could use some adjective like conclusive, incontrovertible, irrefutable, powerful, strong, and undeniable. Or you could use a structure like it is blah 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 true to say that. Before the word true, usually it is usually accompanied by degree adverbs like absolutely, completely, totally, utterly, and wholly, which is strengthener Yeah. And weakeners include quite to a degree and up to a point, which means that you quite agree with the author, but you still have some doubt. Okay, so you don't agree 100%. So you could use some weakeners to accompany your adjective. Okay. And finally, for the agreement part, you could use a as clause, because when you say like as X says or X says that, yeah, you could see that the clause as will emphasize more on the author point, on your agreement with the author. Okay, for example, as Garfinkel 1999 says, blah blah blah. Yes. This is also a very subtle way to show your agreement with the author. Okay, so that is all about agreement. So how about disagreed? Okay, so basically we have the same. First of all, we have the use of direct verbs like I cannot agree. Please avoid using disagree, because disagree is a very negative verb and it's not usually used in the context of writing, because it will show that you will like trying to criticize the author, which is not a good thing to do. Okay, and then you could use certain reporting verbs like claim and assert. Okay, and you could also use adjective and adverb like agreement, but this time you will use a lot of quite negative one like debatable, erroneous, fallacious, feeble, flimsy, misguided, misleading, questionable, and unconvincing. These adjectives could be followed by a ly suffix in order to create adverbs. Okay, like debatably, erroneously, fallaciously, like fitly, flimsily, misguidedly. Okay, and you have and I have here below some adjective that cannot add ly me after, like hard to accept, hard to believe, unsupportable, overstated, misconceived, or limited. Okay, so finally you could use the phrase, the clause may, but, because this clause is used to show a contrast between two opposite point of views. View A may blah blah blah, may look true, may look convincing, but view B proved to be better. Okay, show a contrast between two opposite points of view, which can be used to show your disagreement to the author. Next one you need to bear in mind is prose style. Okay, when discussing academic literature, it is a good idea to try to be as balanced as possible in the way you reach your decision. Okay, don't try to be biased, because you need to show your most objective view or account, because when you bias a point of view, maybe your literature review may become invalid and not really reliable. Okay, in other words, you should be seen as weighing up the different sides to an argument on issue and only then forming your viewpoint. Okay, you should compare different points of view and then try to conclude and reach your own point of view. This approach of weighing of alternative in a fair and balanced way should be reflected in the kind of language which you used. For example, I have here some like sample sentences for you to take into account. Okay, the first one is the evidence would appear to indicate that on balance it appears that, synthesizing the main points, we might reasonably assume that, weighing of the alternative, it would seem that, blah blah blah. Okay, so I think that that is all about our lesson today. I think the lesson is long enough for you to absorb the information. Okay, so thank you very much for watching as well as your cooperation. If you have any question, feel free to leave it at the comments box below. Our group's member will be very pleased to answer your question. Thank you very much again and have a nice day.